Hello, hello, hello. We're back again. Today we're going to be speaking about Lot and his family um, from Genesis 19. And one of the biggest parts of spiritual awakening is having the skill to be able to let things go. It goes from how we feel, it goes from what we desire to what even took place, and also letting go of things that are even to come, which is things that can give us anxiety and worry, right? And even pressure. This skill is so important in your awakening because, right, as we've established, awakening is when you actually walk with divine. And it's not necessarily this relationship of I'm following you. That's part of the wilderness. The wilderness is follow me, let me show you my ways, and I'll make my ways straight for you. Spiritual awakening, the journey itself is a collaboration with divine, where we are aware that divine knows the way. However, we trust divine so much that it's as if we too know it. Because as I said, right, divine is not outside of us, divine is within. Just how Jesus taught us that heaven is within us, that we don't need to go on living this physical life and then physically going into the ground and being buried for us to experience heaven. We can experience it right here, right now. The only problem that's standing in our way from it happening at this point are the things that we are actually holding on to and believing that they are actually important in our lives. Hence the story of Lot. And we know about the city of Sodom and Gomorrah and how wicked that city was. And God was at a point where his wrath was full and had decided to destroy it. Sent an angel to Lot to flee the city. And that's what Lot and his daughters did. And we hear the story about Lot's wife. We never told her name. However, we will always reference her as the woman who turned back and turned into a pillar of salt. And a lot of the times, right, when we come into symbolism of the Bible, it's not that you can choose to see it physically as something that had happened. But for me, it's more beneficial when I look at it at a symbolic manner and how I can place myself in understanding this part. And when you read it as an event that's happening outside of you, it's so easy for us to judge. However, if you put yourself in that story, then you have more compassion and humanity in understanding the dilemma that Lot's wife had, which is she was so used to the lifestyle of Sodom and Gomorrah. She made a living there. She built a family there. She built her entire being as a person in that city. And many times I have found myself embedding myself in places and groups of people and work positions where to be able to adjust into that group, there are certain changes that should take place in me to feel welcomed or feel like I belong. And when you do feel like you belong and you've built this persona for you to belong there, it becomes your bread and butter. That's where you begin to find fulfillment because you are so comfortable now in this place. And we see Lot's wife being in the position of, but I don't know anything else from this that satisfied me this much. And she when it was time to flee, we are told the story of that she looked back, right? And when the angel gave them the order, right, the warning to flee, they were also told not to look back. And that's exactly what Lot's wife did. When fleeing, she actually turned back. And that's when she turned into a pillar of salt. And I've had many times where, as all of us, we're living in the present moment. However, there are certain things in our lives that persuade us to look back. This is either because of our desire or because of a feeling, and this feeling can be either one of excitement and good memories, or something that even can be painful, or even just out of comfortability, because that was a place that we knew ourselves. And therefore, being persuaded to look back, it can hinder our present standing and in turn our future, because we don't want to let go. And Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt, let's look at it symbolically. Jesus once spoke about we are the salt and light of the earth, and explains that we know that salt has this power of preserving food and preserving good things, and just the perfect, and even when we eat, right, especially meat, just the perfect amount of salt can make the meat itself so vibrant and delicious. And then it's the opposite for when it's too little, or if it's too much, it ruins the meal itself. So when we are the salt of the earth, it's that we are just right. We are just in balance with divine, that when we give to the world, we give at a perfect rate where we are fulfilled and we are fulfilling another. Where we may be filling someone else's cup, but we're doing it from a full cup. So we're not actually losing anything. And therefore, we see Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt. That means her entire form is salt, which means that the hold her past desires had on her made her toxic. That she's not able to leave a comfortable position to go into a better direction, where in her case, she does not know where it's leading her, and doesn't even have enough trust and belief anyway in divine, because of course, the city they were living in, to trust that where I'm being taken is better. And therefore, by holding on to that old, comfortable desire, she loses her life. She loses her family. And it's a very touching story for me, because I've had to let go of a lot in my life. And letting go is not easy. Not for one person, baby. It ain't easy. But it's a necessary event that has to take place in our lives for us to grow. Because you can never grow in comfort. But you have to grow so that you become a better person. And you become a better person for yourself and for your divine journey.